Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode on Blitz Sports. On today's episode, I have a very special guest. Jeremy just came back from college, 2 days ago? 3? Thursday night. Happy to have him back on the show. Jeremy, why don't you say hi to the listeners?
What's going on, everybody? Really good to be back on Blitz Sports. Was waiting to come back, and it's good to be back home. Excited to talk with my guy Mikey about everything he's got planned.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of news with our favorite sports teams. You know, the Yankees, Yamamoto, Soto, Ohtani even. I haven't been on the mic in a while, kind of waiting for this episode to happen. But, yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on, picks, thoughts, and really breaking down the Jets game and the Giants game, which I think is going to be both pretty good games of football to watch today. So we'll start with our Week 15 picks. Jeremy, why don't you get us started with your picks of the week?
Gotcha. All right, Mikey. So this is a little reminiscent of my show at school. I like this. We were talking before we went on air. We were both talking about that Atlanta-Carolina game. I know we both like the Panthers there. I think this is a week. You said it. They got to win eventually, right? Yeah. And that division's not that strong. They're going to have to win a couple games. I know the Falcons aren't that great either. I'm not big on them. And I think Arthur Smith finds a way to lose this one.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think the Falcons have shown just really no good offense and even defense. You know, I go back to that Commanders-Falcons game where they had about 4 chances to win that game, and they did not win. And it's just, you can't lose that many times. A win has to happen at some point for the Panthers. I have them winning today at their home stadium. And me and Jeremy just looked. Tickets are going for $6. I heard of tickets going for 45 cents just the other day. I'm sure those are already taken off the market. But it's just shocking. This was a team that didn't look horrible. Brian Burns, Bryce Young, Miles Sanders, and just a few key pieces, but they have looked horrible. And what are your thoughts on Bryce? What's his name? Bryce Young. What are your thoughts on him so far, and especially looking at how the way Will Levis has played, Richardson went before he got hurt, Stroud even. You know, what are your thoughts on him?
I mean, it's tough. Obviously, they're 1-10 going into this week, and he hasn't looked that great, but it's hard to look good when your best receiver is an aging Adam Thielen. And there's really no one else around me. You got guys like Jonathan Mingo and, like you said, Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. But that's not really a recipe for success. It's not easy for a guy to come in there and win right away. He was at Alabama, and he tore it up with guys who are, in my opinion, better than who he's got to throw the ball to now. So it's tough to really judge. I think he's going to obviously go into next year. And with Frank Reich getting fired too, I think this is a week. You see it every year. Head coach gets fired. The next week the team comes out and they play great and they find a way to win. I think that's what you see today, especially with Bryce Young coming out. I think he's going to be able to play a little looser, have some fun, and hopefully make us look like geniuses talking so highly about him and his team.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the standings right now. The Panthers have yet to win an away game. That is just mind-boggling. You're in Week 15, and you have yet to win an away game. They're 0-8 on the road, 1-4 at home, sitting at 1-12 right now. They just do not look good, and I think Bryce Young as well doesn't look good. And this is where, drafting an Alabama quarterback coming from a Nick Saban team with the stars they have comes at a bit of a disadvantage sometimes, which is why you see Alabama quarterbacks not going as high anymore because they're coming with all this ceiling level, all these skilled players. But then when they come to a team like the Panthers, someone who doesn't have those weapons for them, they don't succeed, well. And I'll bring us into the next game, which won't be a very must-watch game. Cleveland, Chicago. I have Joe Flacco keeping it going at home against Justin Fields and the Bears. But it will be a close game, but it won't be a fun game to watch. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I agree. I think that game's going to be kind of gross to watch. And probably not going to see it on Red Zone many times, but I agree. I think Joe Flacco finds a way. I love Joe Flacco. Everything he did for the Jets last year, I thought it was phenomenal. Like, he holds a spot in my heart forever. I don't think the Bears are that good. Yeah, I know they blew at the Lions, and they've looked better. I still don't think they're that good. The Browns are in the middle of a playoff run, still fighting for the division lead in the AFC North, and the Browns don't have much to play for. They don't even know if Justin Fields is going to be their quarterback next year, regardless of how well he plays. I believe they have the Panthers pick, so and that'll probably be the first overall pick in next year's draft. So I'm sure they'll go with Caleb Williams, and the Justin Fields days will be over soon. I don't think the I don't think the Bears are that good. And the Browns, that defense is phenomenal. I talk about it all the time with my friends up at school. That defense is top 3 in the league. You can argue top 1. Joe Flacco finds a way to get it done today.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a close game. Is this the last game for Matt Eberflus?
Probably. I mean, the Bears go through coaches like no other team in the league. It's like a coaching carousel over there. I mean, maybe he stays around at least through the rest of the year just because they beat the Lions I believe it was last week. I don't think he's that great of a coach.
Now, I think they give Fields another shot next year. I don't think they like what they see from Caleb Williams. I think Justin Fields is a good quarterback. I think he's heavily underrated, and I do believe he is a good quarterback. Now, there are a lot of concerns. I want to see him with an actually good head coach and a good system offense. Now, Jeremy, why don't you lead us into the Kansas City-New England game?
Yeah, for me, this is a game I really don't want to watch. I hate both of these teams. One, for obvious reasons, being a Jet fan, and two, I don't like Mahomes or Travis Kelce. I think they're great players. I just don't really like them. I don't like their personalities and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan, especially after last week. I got the Chiefs winning. I'd be stupid to say the opposite, but they haven't really looked that great this year. I'm not really that impressed. It hasn't looked like the Chiefs we all come to know. Mahomes hasn't looked like himself. That whole team's full of so much drama, especially after Taylor Swift came into the picture, which honestly bothers me even more. I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan either. That may hurt some of the Swifties out there, but that's okay. Yeah, I think the Chiefs win. I don't think the Patriots have any talent there. I don't think Mac Jones is any good. But again, another team where there's not much around. It's tough to be a quarterback for that team when there's no one to throw the ball to. So, yeah, but Chiefs taking that one.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think it's very self-explanatory. Just the Patriots, the Chiefs. Chiefs aren't as good as they normally are, but they're good. And you can't hide that from last week. But, yeah, terrible acting by Mahomes and Reed there. It was a bit out of character by Andy Reid. I have a lot of respect for Andy Reid as a coach. I think he's a phenomenal coach, phenomenal guy to be around in the locker room. But it's one of those where he's kind of forced to do that, in my opinion. When your franchise quarterback, gets upset, you kind of get upset with him because he's your guy. And as a head coach, you have to stand behind your players sometimes, especially the guy you're paying all your salary to. And I've told this to a lot of people. This is it for the Chiefs. After this season, the Chiefs will not be a top 10 team in the NFL. They don't have money. They don't have talent anymore. They don't have a receiving core. Kelsey's at the end of the road. Mahomes hasn't looked like Mahomes. Pacheco is a very good player, and I think he is one of the best running backs in the league. But the Chiefs don't have money. They're losing Chris Jones. They don't have some pieces in the O-line that they need. Creed Humphrey's obviously a very good center. But this is the end of the road for the Chiefs. They won't be in the playoffs next. You know what? I take that back. I think they are, based on the teams they have to play next year. I just think this is really the downfall of the Chiefs after the season. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think there's some good points there. I don't think they're that talented. The defense is pretty good. The defense is better than it has been in years that they won the Super Bowl. But like you said, they have no receiving core. Rashee Rice has looked good. He's been a bright spot in that team. But other than that, there's really no wide receivers. Like Kadarius Toney just looks worse and worse each week. MVS isn't all that great. Kelsey, obviously Travis Kelce is one of the greatest tight ends ever, but he's getting older. Still, I think he's going to be a pivotal part of the NFL next year. He's going to be a top two tight end like he always is. Mahomes is going to Mahomes. I don't think Mahomes will ever look this bad again. I think it's also tough throwing guys like Kadarius Toney and MBS, but he made them look good in the past. So it's just a weird year for the NFL. But I do like what you're saying. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be all that great. I think they're going to be pretty overrated next year just because of what they have done in the past couple of years. I think you see other teams, even this year, they're not a shoo-in to win the division. I know the Broncos lost last night, but still, the Chiefs dropped a couple more games. That game they had, I think it was week 6, maybe week 7. It was in Denver, and the Broncos upset the Chiefs. That was that could be a pivotal game to determine this division. So I do like what you said there with the Chiefs probably not being as good as they normally are next year.
All right, so I'm going to lead us into probably the game not everyone's going to be watching, but the most important game for the New York Giants. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Green Bay Packers. The Saints, 6-7. The Falcons, 6-7. Buccaneers, 6-7. So if the Bucs win, they're 7-7. We think the Falcons are going to lose. They're going to be 6-8. I'm going to hold about what we're saying about the Saints until after when we dive into the Jets and Giants game. And then the Packers are 6-7. That division, the Lions have, without a doubt, after this win, has taken over that division. Packers have a few key inactives this week. Bucs not so much. So I personally think the Buccaneers are going to take this one. It is away, but they will take it as the Packers are without star corner Jair Alexander, running back A.J. Dillon, safety Darnell Savage, offensive tackle Caleb Jones, wide receiver Christian Watson, who's been out the rest of the for most of the season. So they have been able to kind of develop different ways of offense without him. But I just think this is not the game for the Packers. I think they continue to just not look as good, as sharp, and I think they carry over their Week 14 loss against the Giants in the Week 15, and the Bucs take this pivotal game for the Giants and the way they stand in the standings right now. Jeremy?
I'm going to go opposite end of the spectrum here. I think the Packers are going to win this one. I think really bad showing last week. You had a Packer team coming to MetLife Stadium, and they just found a way to shoot themselves in the foot. It felt like every possession. Yeah, like you mentioned, without Christian Watson last week, again this week. But I just checked. I'm pretty sure they're getting Aaron Jones back, which will help. I think he's a lot better than A.J. Dillon. No, Jair is definitely not good. You mentioned that. But still, I think it's a big bounce back week for them coming back home. You had a team from Florida coming into Green Bay, and teams from Florida don't like the cold. So I think that plays a big role into this game as well. Packers are going to have to find a way to get back on track. They're still in the playoff hunt, just like the Giants are. Big game for them. And this could honestly determine the NFC South as well with the Buccaneers. If they find a way to win today, they kind of lock up that division. But I think the Packers come away with the win today, and I think they win by at least a possession. I'm giving at least 7 points.
Yeah, so I'll let Jeremy start us over to the game. He's definitely had a lot to say about the Tennessee-Houston game at Tennessee. Tennessee's wearing their Oiler jerseys, which I personally love. I think they look awesome. I think it's a good throwback. It is weird, though. They are wearing it against Houston. Obviously, the Houston Oilers. But yeah, I'll let Jeremy start us off in that game.
Now, as many people out there, I'm sure, or who are also C.J. Stroud fantasy owners, this is kind of tough. I also had Tank Dell as well. Seeing him go down a couple weeks ago, that really hurt. Me and one of my roommates, actually, we both have him in different fantasy leagues, and we ordered the Tank Dell shirt that the Texans wore last week at MetLife pregame. So shout out Tank Dell, shout out C.J. Stroud. But I'm going to take the Titans here. You're at home. Big win last week, upsetting the Dolphins. Will Levis looks phenomenal. I think that guy has so much talent. I think he's playing very, very well. And I don't know what the Texans really have without Stroud. And obviously, no Tank Dell. I believe Nico Collins is out. At least he's questionable coming into this game. He is out. And the defense got carved up by Zach Wilson last week. And I love Zach Wilson probably more than anyone else in the world. But they made him look like a Hall of Fame quarterback last week. So I think Will Levis continues to keep the ball rolling. I think they find a way, and I think it's pretty funny they're wearing the Oilers jerseys against Houston. That's funny. But and any time a team wears the throwbacks, I gotta back them. Those jerseys are beautiful, and anytime they're wearing those, you gotta think they come away with a win.
Yeah, Jeremy definitely took the words out of my mouth. Tennessee is gonna win against this Texans team, and I think this is where the downfall of the Texans 2024 season kind of goes down here. You know, just losing the key guys. You're back to Davis Mills. It's just all throwbacks for them, you know, thinking about from last year and stuff. Also, Will Anderson is out. So I do see Tennessee keeping it rolling at home as well. Now let's kick into the 4 o'clock slate. Obviously, we do have the Jets and Giants, but we'll go into that later. So Washington and the Rams. I'll start us off. I think Washington gets back on the winning side of the ball. They've had a rough couple of weeks. Obviously, if they do lose today, I believe this is the end of the road for Ron Rivera, who I don't think is having a bad season, but from what I'm hearing, it seems he's just lost a lot of respect in the locker room, and truly everybody there wants him out. So I think this could be the end of the road if they lose. But I do have the Commanders coming back from a rough weeks and beating the Rams, who also are coming off a heartbreaking loss against the Ravens, where I don't know if you saw that, Jeremy. That was a block in the back on that punt return. If you watch that highlight again, there was without a doubt a block in the back. But refs don't make every call. Would that guy have got him? Maybe. But also, I do think the Ravens would have been able to driven down the field and score, especially with Justin Tucker's leg. But I see Washington getting back on the winning side of the ball. Jeremy?
Yeah, the Commanders coming off 3 bad losses now. They got just blown out. 4-game losing streak, but 3 games in a row against the Giants, Cowboys, and Dolphins where they have gotten blown out. I think the Rams win today. I think it's close. The Rams still in the middle of a playoff push. Stafford looks like Super Bowl Matt Stafford again. Cooper Kupp's finally getting back to the wide receiver he used to be, which is so good for one of my fantasy teams. I love to see that. Puka Nacua, great story. He's been phenomenal all year. Kyron Williams, I think he runs all over Washington today. But I think the Commanders find a way to keep it close. I think this is kind of the game where no one expects them to win, that they kind of come out and win. They're a weird team. They kind of pick and choose their spots, it feels like. But I do agree. I think if they don't find a way to at least keep it close today or win, I think Ron Rivera's days as head coach of the Commanders are done. If they're going to win one of these next 2 weeks, let it be today so they can get their win out of the way, because they play the Jets next week. So let them get their win out of the way today. But I'm going to go with the Rams in a close one. I think Matt Stafford finds a way to keep the ball rolling in a playoff push. Going to the next one. I'll start it off here. We got the Niners traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. I think this one's going to get ugly. I think it's going to get ugly fast. The Niners, they look so good. I think when they're fully healthy, I think that's the best team in the league, regardless of who they stack up against. Whether or not it's the Eagles or the Cowboys or the Chiefs, whoever it is, I think the Niners are the best team in the league when they're fully healthy. Brock Purdy looks really, really good. When he has Debo and McCaffrey and Ayuk and Kittle, that offense just finds a way to click. Shanahan does a great job with Purdy, and that defense has looked great all year. I mean, you can say whatever you want about any team in the league. I think the Niners are they're top one. They're the best team in the league. I don't really think there's any way to put it, and they're gonna run through the Cardinals this week. It's gonna get really ugly really fast.
Yeah, so I agree. It's going to get ugly. San Fran's going to win. Now getting into what I think is my favorite game of the week, Buffalo taking on Dallas. Buffalo fired Ken Dorsey. They've looked a lot better. Dallas has looked really good. Coming off a big win against Philly, I have Buffalo at home. Dak has never done well in the cold. He won't do well in the cold today. I got Buffalo taking the game from Dallas. It's going to be a shootout of a game. I know the Cowboys all about that D. They don't have a defense today. Josh Allen has a huge game. Dak has a huge game. But I see the Bills coming on top at home. They're due for one of these wins where you're just like, wow.
Yeah, I like that. I know historically teams who go up north, teams who are from the South who go up north aren't historically good in the cold weather. I'm taking the Cowboys. They looked so good against Philly last week. Yeah, they were home. They were in the Dome. But I'm not fully sold on the Bills yet. I think there's a little Jet bias in there. Well, I mean, that's fair, I think. I think the Cowboys find a way to come on top today. Like you said, I do think it's a shootout. I think whoever wins a turnover battle wins this game. Josh Allen, I mean, everyone talks about his turnover ratio, but he's still, in my opinion, one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I think he's a top 5 quarterback. Dak Prescott's playing at an MVP level. I think this is a this is a battle to see who is legit. And if the Bills come out and win today, I'll admit they're a legit playoff team. I don't know if they do it though. The Cowboys are running so hot right now. I don't know what it's going to take to stop them. And I was so high on the Eagles last week. The Cowboys shut me up really quick, and I think I'd be stupid to not at least back them up this week.
And I just want to comment on something. On my phone, I just got 2 notifications back to back. A Yankees notification, the latest on Yamamoto, and the Mets notification, latest on Yamamoto. I find that ridiculous that they were 1 second behind. I think I haven't read it yet, but it'll be interesting. So obviously Yankees are set to meet with Yamamoto tomorrow or soon. Yamamoto still has a lot of teams to meet with, so it doesn't sound like the decision is going to come any time soon, which is disappointing by far. But Yamamoto and the Mets had a meeting yesterday. Jeremy told me it was at Steve Cohen's house, but we'll dive into that a little later. We'll finish with the NFL. Baltimore, Jacksonville. I got Baltimore staying hot. I think they look good. But Jacksonville looks good, but I don't think they look good enough to beat Baltimore and that offense. Jeremy?
Yeah, I agree. I got the Ravens. I think the Jaguars are good. I don't think they're great. I think they're going to win the division and be a playoff team, but I think they lose in the first round. I don't think they're all that great, especially with Lawrence, who isn't 100%. This Ravens team, they are so good. I was kind of iffy on them. I have been kind of all year, but you got to give them credit where credit's due. They're legit, and this team's scary. They're gonna completely. I think they're gonna destroy the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are good. I don't think they're great. So I'm taking Lamar on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I agree. And then Monday, it's going to be one of the worst football games to watch. Philly taking on Seattle. Philadelphia obviously wins. I'm not going to go in depth about that game. Jeremy?
Yeah, if Jalen Hurts plays, it's not close. I saw a report today that Hurts is sick. I don't know how serious the sickness is or what he has.
It got a lot worse last night. That's why it seems like he is doubtful. I got the sleeper notification.
I saw it on fantasy as well. Even if it's Geno Smith or it's Drew Lock, I don't really think it matters. I think the Eagles find a way to win. Without Hurts, I think it's close. Okay, yeah. Schefter tweeted it. Yeah, it's legit. Yeah, even without Hurts, the Eagles find a way to win. I do think Seattle finds a way to keep it close, though. Again, they're in a playoff push, but they're not beating the Eagles. The Eagles are not losing. I think that would be the 3rd game in a row they lose, right? Yeah, they're not losing 3 games in a row.
All right, so now we'll dive into our games. Jets, Giants. I'll let Jeremy start it off with the Jets. I have the inactives on my computer screen for Jeremy to read. So, Jeremy, why don't you take us away with the Jets and Dolphins?
All right, Jets, Dolphins in Miami. Big headline of this game is no Tyreek Hill. Jets coming off a huge win last week. I mean, mathematically, they're not out of it yet. and I'm not going to say really more than that. I do, in my delusional Jet thinking, I think they win today. I think this is a game where they come out and they keep the momentum going. Without Tyreek Hill, that immensely helps their defense. Tua doesn't look that good without Tyreek Hill. You saw it last week when he was in and out of the game against the Titans. So I think that really helps out the Jets. I think that helps their pass rush as well because they don't have to worry about Tyreek. All they have to really worry about is Jalen Waddle. So you put Sauce or DJ Reed on Waddle, and you rush 5-6 guys every time. You keep Tua under pressure. And listen, if you're Zach Wilson, you go out there and have fun again. That's what he said last week. He said he was going to go have fun, and he said, what's the worst that can happen? And what, are they going to bench me again? So I think if you're him, you just go out there, have fun, try to do what you did last week, and just play loose. I think that's the key for the Jets today. They can't go in there and get all cocky and deal with all the noise and the publicity and the media. You just got to go in there, handle business, and get out of Miami, and hopefully with a win.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Jeremy. I do think the Jets beat the Dolphins. Obviously, they do have Waddle, but like Jeremy said, now Sauce Gardner's on him. You have the pass rush to do it, and like you said, Tua does not look good without Tyreek, and a few other key inactives for the Dolphins. Javon Holland, a big safety, so that will help the Jets. Big corner, Xavier Howard. Obviously, they do have Jalen Ramsey, but Howard is still a very good corner. And offensive guard Robert Hunt, who's been out for a while now. And just some other Jets inactives, Jason Brownlee, Bryce Hall, not the running back, Bryce Hall, the corner, defensive end, Carl Lawson, and a few other guys that are really just not anything special. I'll get us going with the Giants-Saints. I think the Giants win. I think Tommy DeVito keeps it going. I think the Giants are hot. They're playing loose. But this is a big week because apparently I heard if a few things happen, the Giants could hold the number 7 seed at the end of this week. Which is, like Jeremy said, is wild. Just shows how bad the NFC is. Now, would I care if the Giants make the playoffs? Yes, I'd be happy. If we don't, what are we going to do? I mean, how are we supposed to adjust when our Daniel Jones gets hurt, Tyrod Taylor? But DeVito's looked spectacular. And I am hoping Jaden Daniels becomes a Giant next season. I feel like that'd be really good for them. And some inactives, Giants without Paris Campbell, Joshua Corbin, Jajarius Owens, Boogie Bashman, who's been an absolute bust. Not worth a second-round pick. Great name, no talent.
That is a great name.
Yeah, Boogie Bashman. Boogie Bashman with the sack. Have yet to heard that this season. So, good name, no skill. And then Evan Neal. Listen, I love Neal, but like my dad says every game, it's ridiculous. Evan Neal should be a guard. He doesn't want to move to guard, but he's just not fast enough to be a tackle. He can't handle these guys like Micah Parsons. I'd much rather watch Tyree Phillips there. And the reason why I do think this is not an easy win for the Giants, but a game that if they don't win is going to be very frowned upon, as the Saints are without Chris Olave, Isaiah Foskey, and their big tackle, Ryan Ramczyk. So this is a big game for the Giants and a must-win at that. So now, about 10 minutes away from kickoff, we'll kind of kick into the MLB here. Actually, before we do that, let's just talk about Brandon Stanley very quickly. That was a horrible Thursday night game, and this was a firing that should have happened before the season even started. Firing their GM. Listen, I think their GM has built a phenomenal roster, but he's had too many chances to fire Brandon Stanley to not fire him until they finally did, but that's when the owner had to kick in and fire him himself. So yeah, Jeremy, any remarks about Brandon Stanley before we kick into baseball?
Yeah, I think that firing is a year and a half late. I think Staley is a horrible head coach. You have so much talent on that roster. The wide receivers are great. I know Mike Williams is hurt, but still, there's so much talent on that roster. Justin Herbert, he's shown he is a great quarterback in this league. You just look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. I think Staley's a horrible head coach. I think they should have fired him after the game 2 years ago against the Raiders, where if they tied, they both would have gotten to the playoffs, and he found a way to fumble it and lose that game. I think after that, I would have canned him. Yeah, I think he's a horrible, horrible head coach, and if another team picks him up, they're in for a very, very rude awakening with him.
All right, so let's kick into the MLB. We'll start with Ohtani. Listen, that contract is ridiculous. $700 million over 10 years, $70 million a year. But Ohtani made the best financial decision I've ever seen, deferring for $2 million a year. And listen, I know you're like, why would he go for $2 million? Endorsements, people. He's going to get all these endorsements in LA. He was getting a lot in Anaheim. Should have been the Anaheim Angels. Should never have changed Los Angeles. Obviously, I wasn't really around for the Anaheim part of the Angels, but hearing more about that, the Anaheim Ducks, it's how could you just make them the Los Angeles Angels, especially when you're so bad compared to the Dodgers. You should just stay away from the Los Angeles part and keep it in Anaheim. So, listen, that's a big deal for the Dodgers. They still have money to spend, obviously going after Yamamoto. We'll kick into Yamamoto next. But what are your thoughts on Ohtani, Jeremy?
I think that contract is absurd. $700 million is so much money. Granted, if anyone's going to get it, it should be him. I guess that's the market for him, which, whatever, it makes sense. He's, a generational talent, arguably the best baseball player ever. Only time will tell, but once they first signed him, I thought, all right, they're probably done. Like, that probably takes him out of the Yamamoto race, which is good for the Yankees. Yeah, and then 2 days later, I see $2 million for the next 10 years, which means they're basically going for it all every year the next 10 years, which is absurd. And then he's going to get $68 million from 2034 to 2044. That is insane. That is just, it's like a Bobby Bonilla thing. Yeah. And I don't think Ohtani's going to turn out anything close to Bobby Bonilla. It would be kind of funny if he did. But the rich get richer. They're gonna spend. They always do, but now they're gonna spend even more than they probably originally intended. If they find a way to land Yamamoto or even a guy like Blake Snell, they're getting Buehler back. I'm sure they bring and the Glasnow trade. I forgot about that. And the Glasnow trade. I'm sure they'll bring Clayton Kershaw back for a year. I don't know where there's a hole in that roster. That team, they always have the names. It's just injuries, and they don't find a way to get it done.
Yeah, this is a Dodgers team that has always struggled in the playoffs. Listen, I don't think Ohtani could fulfill a whole 162-day season. Listen, in my opinion, Ohtani has to stay away from the pitching aspect of his game. Honestly, his hitting is worth $600 million. His pitching, he's a great pitcher, but he's not a healthy pitcher. So I think they do have to move away from the pitching aspect of Ohtani, which I know is a big part of that $700 million, but he's not going to be pitching until 2025. So now into Soto. Let's go on Soto first. Yankees, that's a huge move. You part ways with a bunch of players that are very loved in New York, but those are guys that the Yankees are going to lose anyway in a few years. King obviously hurts, but that's a guy who's going to become a Chad Green sooner or later, just kind of bouncing from teams. Hasn't been able to show he can stay healthy down the stretch here from the past few seasons. And listen, it hurts, but it's replaceable. He's a replaceable guy in the bullpen. And I think a guy who can do that is Jordan Hicks. He's a bit wild. He throws hard, but that's a guy I feel Matt Blake can reconstruct the way he pitches. But yeah, I think Soto will be phenomenal. And don't sleep on Trent Grisham. Perfect fourth outfielder. When guys get hurt, perfect center fielder. Has the gold gloves for them, actually. But huge move for the Yankees to get Soto. And really, to make it a complete offseason, you need Yamamoto. But we might not get Yamamoto. And I'll let Jeremy kind of kick into some of these options, and I'll let him talk about what he thinks about Soto first.
Yeah, real quick, I think the Juan Soto trade is phenomenal. You get, in my opinion, he's gonna go down as one of the greatest hitters of all time. He had a down year last year, and I think he batted in like the high 270s, low 280s, which is absurd. He's gonna come to Yankee Stadium, and he's gonna abuse that right field wall. I was saying it all off season. They need lefties, and you go out, you get Soto, you get Verdugo, you get Grisham. Granted, Trent Grisham is not a guy who I want to see in the batter's box all the time. I don't want him hitting, but I think especially late in the season, games you're winning, you can go take out Verdugo or Judge. Like you can move around the lineup a little bit, or just put guys in different spots. You can to get Grisham out there for defensive purposes. I think you're going to see that a lot with him and Verdugo. I think Verdugo's a guy who will play until like the 7th, 8th inning in games, and he'll get subbed out for defense. Let him get his last at bat and take him out. Losing him, that sucks. But like you said, I think he's replaceable. He threw maybe 100 innings last year. I know a big chunk of that was towards the end of the year where he started a few games, but I think Matt Blake made him. I don't think he's going to go and have the same success anywhere else. Losing Drew Thorpe, that's unfortunate, but you don't know what you're going to get with the prospect. You know what you're getting with Juan Soto, even if it's just for a year. In the Yankees, you haven't made the World Series in 2009. I was 5 years old. I don't even remember it. You know what I mean? So, you're the New York Yankees. You have to go and find a way to at least get back there. You're one of the biggest market teams in all of sports. You have to find a way to get back there, whether you buy your teams or not. And they have not been that great at developing guys anyway. So they probably would have messed up Drew Thorpe. Juan Soto is a generational talent. He won a World Series when he was 19 years old, which is absurd. I think he brings a lot to this team. The outfield is great, and I don't see many other options out there, like at least with the bat right now. I think you need pitching. Yamamoto's a guy you have to go get. It's going to be a bidding war. Whoever he wants to be wined and dined, you're going to have to wine him, dine him more than anyone else. You're going to have to give him every dollar he wants. You're going to have to do whatever the guy wants to get him. He's a natural winner. He's won MVP 3 years in a row in Japan. He pitched to a ERA under 1.5. It's just stupid numbers. You don't get him. I mean, that's not good. But there's other guys out there. I don't know how likely a Jordan Montgomery reunion is, considering how that ended. I wouldn't mind seeing Trevor Bauer in New York. I know with Garrett Cole, I don't know how that would go over, but that'd be kind of. I like Trevor Bauer, and the last guy I would go out there to be a starter pitcher is Blake Snell. His walks are a problem, but Blake Snell is a phenomenal pitcher in the league.
See, now I would be okay with the Montgomery reunion, and this might surprise people. Montgomery wants to be back in New York. He loved it so much. They've left on bad terms, but you have to be able to get over that at some point. If you think about it, he wouldn't be in the World Series if it wasn't for Cashman, because who knows, he might have finished out with the Yankees and either re-signed with them or went somewhere else besides Texas. So he has a World Series now, which I'm very happy for him. But yeah, he didn't end well. But I have questions with Snell and Bauer. I just think from a clubhouse perspective, those guys just don't seem to fit that New York. Like, you have to think about Rodon. When things got tough last year, instead of walking back to the dugout, keeping his head down and not saying anything, and I'm going back to that Los Angeles series when I was in Ripken, what he said to the fans, obviously, kiss my, and then there's a little censored for Blitz Sports. Just put a sound effect over that. I didn't mean to put that sound effect, actually. That happened by accident. Yeah, so I think some questions locker room wise. I wouldn't be bad. Michael Lorenzen, 1-year deal. See what you get out of him. Seems like a guy who you could get rid of easily at the deadline. But I think it's Yamamoto or bust. I think if you don't get him, it's a bust of an offseason. You get Soto, but that pitching hole is too big not to fill. And, I mean, that's pretty much it. Jeremy, do you have anything to say about the Yankees?
Yeah, I agree. It's Yamamoto or bust. You got to find a way to go get him. You can't lose out to him to the Mets. That's a really, really bad look for Brian Cashman. After everything he went through last year, after all the fans wanted him gone and Steinbrenner gone, this is this is the guy you got to go get. I think getting Yamamoto really solidifies us as a World Series contender, and it actually will mean something. Like last year, it was like, oh yeah, Yankees are probably gonna win. They weren't that good last year. They haven't been that great since, in my opinion, like 2017 or 2019. If you go out and get Yamamoto, it's a statement to the rest of the league. You take him away from the Mets, you take him away from the Dodgers. He's a guy you got to go get. You got to find a way. Give him whatever he wants. Doesn't matter the money. Doesn't matter the years. You're going to have to do it if you want to at least get back to the World Series. You have to be feared again. The Yankees haven't been the Yankees in so long. You have to find a way to become feared again. And I think getting Yamamoto kind of solidifies that for them.
See, now, I'm going to be very mad if they don't get Yamamoto, but I won't be as mad as I think people think, because it sounds like the Yankees aren't going to go down without a fight. Like, I feel like they've been trying. They've given him contracts. They've talked to him so many times. You can't say they didn't try. Or, like, if he picks the Dodgers, you have to understand why. Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. Do I think he'd do better in the pinstripes? Yes, I do. I think the Dodgers I don't know. They just don't feel right for me. And I feel like he wants to be a very highly talked about player on a team, which is why I don't think he goes to the Dodgers. And that's why I do think the Mets also bump up there a little bit. But I won't be terribly upset if the Yankees don't get him, because I know Cashman didn't go down without a fight. And the Yankees they're willing to spend the money. They're back to the old Yankee ways. So, Jeremy, any last remarks?
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate you letting me on the show again. It's really good to be home, really good to be back on Blitz Sports. And hoping for a good day of Jet football and a good offseason of Yankees news. Good to be back, man. Thank you very much.
Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Blitz Sports with MJL24. Obviously, thank you to Jeremy. And check out Utica Baseball and his radio show on Thursdays, right? Yeah, Thursdays on WPNR 90.7. Definitely check it out. Amazing show to watch. So thank you for listening to Blitz Sports.